Welcome to Effective Teaching and Learning for Secondary Science. This is Module 3.1. The key question that this module seeks to examine is, why is planning important to teaching science? Planning is important to the experienced and unexperienced teacher in that it can be seen as having a game plan of what you are going to teach. Your instructional plan is important to both initiating and sustaining student learning and is integrally tied to teacher effectiveness as well as positive student learning outcomes, especially student achievement in science. When going through the process of planning, you will want to take a big picture perspective that allows you to conceptualize and offer a coherent set of experiences for your students. And importantly, you will want to plan for experiences that move beyond rote memorization and instead allow students opportunities to engage in understanding and meaningful knowledge creation. There are several questions that you should consider when beginning to plan for teaching science. These questions include the following: whom are you planning to teach? What are you planning to teach? How are you planning to teach science? How are you planning to manage the science learning environment? And how are you planning to assess student learning? Remember that the overarching idea of effective science teaching is that students are more important than science in the science classroom. What we mean by this is that the experience that the student has in regards to science and being provided opportunities to learn science is more important than the science content itself. This is not to say that science content isn't important, but rather that we must consider a student-centered approach in order to provide a high-quality experience for our students. When planning to teach science, the first question to consider is, whom are you planning to teach? When considering your answer to this question, there are three components that you must examine: language skills, classroom behavior, and physical and learning challenges. Let's take a look at each. In considering students' language skills, the key questions that you should ask yourself when planning are the following: how will you accommodate students' diverse language skills? How will you modify your instruction for English language learners? And how will you modify your instruction for struggling readers and writers? In considering classroom behavior, the key questions that you should ask yourself when planning are the following: what classroom management challenges should you anticipate in your science class each day? How will you respond to disruptive students? And how will you help students take responsibility for their own actions and their own learning? And finally, when considering students' physical and learning challenges, the key questions that you should ask yourself when planning to teach science are the following: how will you modify your teaching for students who have difficulty accessing instruction, such as difficulty seeing the board or difficulty hearing you talk? How will you accommodate students with mobility challenges? How will you accommodate students with learning challenges? And how will you accommodate students with individualized education plans or IEPs? These are all important questions to consider in order to ensure that your planning includes differentiation that provides opportunities for equity and accessibility for all. The next overarching question that you should consider when planning to teach science is, what are you planning to teach? Here, you really are trying to determine what students should know and be able to do by the end of instruction. An important component to being able to answer and provide for this question is the teacher's pedagogical content knowledge. Pedagogical content knowledge has been defined as the special amalgam of content and pedagogy that is uniquely the province of experienced teachers. That's a little confusing. So in other words, it is the teacher's in-depth knowledge of the subject area, namely the content. However, Chiapetta and Kabbalah 2010 add that the pedagogical content knowledge that a teacher builds over a career goes well beyond the basics of knowing science content well enough to explain it. Pedagogical content knowledge fuses the what and the how of instruction in a way that facilitates learning.